All right, today on the show, we have Mridu Parikh from lifeisorganized.com. Let me tell you more about Mridu. Now, she is the founder of Life is Organized, and Mridu is passionate about getting women the results they want, whether it's doubling their business revenue, losing weight, increasing time for self-care. Her best-selling book and productivity podcast share simple strategies to ditch overwhelm. Mritu's teachings on mastering tasks and habits have been featured in the Huffington Post, Forbes, U.S. News and World Report, and Real Simple. And when she's not wrangling a list or a schedule, you can usually find this former professional organizer turned productivity pro with her 2 teens and her husband in Nashville enjoying a Malbec. Please, everyone who is listening, follow her, whether you're man or woman.
Yes.
Or non-binary or whatever you identify as, please go over to lifeisorganized.com. That's the home of everything. Mridu, she's got amazing resources. And if you just go to lifeisorganized.com/resources, there is, and we're going to have a link to that in the show notes. So if you're listening to this on a podcast app, look in the show notes. We'll have a direct link to that. But she has lots of great resources for you. And also follow her on Facebook and Instagram, also Life is Organized. So just find her that way and you can get to everything from lifeisorganized.com. And last, subscribe to her podcast, which is called Productivity on Purpose. And she brings on experts in all fields of life to help you get to that next level. So anyway, Mridu, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. That was the best intro. And by the way, you nailed my name. So kudos to you.
Well, we have to tell the audience though, I wasn't sure how to pronounce it. And so I've learned by my past mistakes to make sure, and I probably said it in front of Mridu at least 50 times going, I just want to get this right. And so she had to listen to me say it over and over again. So I'm glad I got it right.
Yeah, and I say it usually takes like a glass of wine. So I'm telling you, either you're drinking right now or you just really have good,
I am 17 beers in, so I'm able to. I don't remember what we're doing right now, but I did get the name right, and I'm going to pass out and just let you talk the rest of the time because I am wildly drunk. No, I wish I was wildly drunk, but I am sober. But let's talk about. I think this is a really important topic, and by the way, I don't have a lot of experts outside of top real estate agents on this show, and I should, because I think this is really important. Is real estate agents have to wear so many different hats, and they're essentially, in many cases, most of our listeners probably are individual practitioners, right? They don't have a team behind them. Maybe they have the firm they work at, maybe has some training, some support. They can get help when they need it, but they're really on their own most of the time. And that is a ton of pressure. It's a ton of stress. It's a lot of different hats to wear, and it can be overwhelming, exhausting. And I would love to talk to you all about some ways to minimize some of that stress and become more effective and efficient. But before that, I want to learn about your journey. Like, how did you get into becoming a productivity coach? Tell us your journey.
Yeah. Well, first I do want to thank you because I know I'm a little bit outside of the box of your guests, and I'm hoping to drop a lot of value here. But I like that you started with the story because I think that a lot of real estate agents can probably resonate with it, even though I'm not in that industry. When I had an opportunity, let's say, to leave my corporate career of 10 years, it was because my husband's job was bringing us from New York to Nashville. And this was 17 years ago. So it's not the it city. It's not the cool place to be, right? Nobody wants, or at least I don't want to be here. But the only way he got me here was I had a 2-year-old and was on my way with the second. The only way he got me here was he said the magic words, "You won't have to work." And I thought I hit the jackpot, right? I was like, okay, sign me up. Let's go to Nashville.
I'll deal with the country music.
Right. I'll deal with it. So we get here. And of course, a couple of years in, I'm like, I'm going cuckoo, love my kids. I just, I miss my work. I want to get back, but I don't want to go to that career, that corporate job. Let me start on this entrepreneurial journey. No business, starting a business, but let me start a business. Okay. So fast forward, trying to figure out what I want to do. I actually landed on home organizing, as you mentioned. I was a professional home organizer, again, way back before like the Container Store, Home Edit, Marie Kondo. It was like the OG in this. And I thought, this is my calling. I love it. And I quickly realized I don't really love organizing other people's stuff, but what I love is teaching them and coaching them the skills behind it. Like I don't really like doing it, but I want to teach them how to do it. So I moved into that. And this is where I think probably some of your listeners can resonate is that, you start this business thinking, I'm going to have so much freedom. I'm going to have so much flexibility that I want to be home with my kids. Like, let me start my own thing. And then you realize you're spread too thin, you're scattered, you're exhausted. And then this can really kind of lead you to feel like a failure at times. Sometimes it can make you resentful. Well, that was me. That was definitely me. It was not the freedom and flexibility I was looking for. I was handcuffed to my business 24/7 and I was working like crazy. And I was thinking, how is it possible that I'm working this hard and I'm still not getting the results that I want? So I jumped into a completely just personal development route. And I started learning all things productivity, time management. I just jumped into it all, taking classes, tutorials, books, the whole thing. And after lots of hits and misses, I discovered what worked for me, especially when I was overloaded, which was most of the time. Right. And I thought I can either go back to constantly being reactive and feeling behind, or I can embrace some new simplicity, some structure, some new beliefs in my life. And that's essentially what I did over time. Like I went from feeling really defeated to very much on top of all the demands and all the distractions that as a business owner, but also as a mom and as a wife and a community member and a sister and a daughter and all the things, right? And so now I teach those skills to other time-strapped top producers who want to take back control of their day too, right? So they have the self-worth they deserve. They actually get the business that they thought they were getting when they signed up for it. So now I help you help people like your audience, really wake up with a plan that they can stick to, stop procrastinating and stop feeling so overwhelmed and just feel really successful every day.
Yeah, boy, that sounds great. I was thinking about, in my own life, I'm like, boy, there's a lot of things as you were talking, I was like, some changes I would like to make for myself as well. But let's talk about, so thank you. I think that's really helpful to give our audience an understanding of your path and your journey. And I want to talk about, I think life, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, is so much about being off track. I think it's if balance is a myth, although to strive for balance is great, but to actually achieve it, I've never done it. But that's okay because we're imperfect. So I'm okay being a little bit out of balance. But I think so. I've thought about this a lot, where it's like, instead of striving for being in balance, what I want to do is notice when I'm out of balance, which is a lot of the time, and then getting back on track, smoothing out that rough edge, and then another rough edge will pop up and I need to smooth that one out. But I think that has been, something that's taken the pressure off. I think there's a lot of pressure on women in particular, but also men too, about doing everything. And women are the most obvious example of this, right? You were saying mother, wife, daughter, friend, business owner. Those are a lot of responsibilities. And, we just expect, people to be perfect and you're supposed to do everything. So I would love to talk about, when you notice yourself being a little bit off kilter, maybe your relationship with your kids isn't as great as you'd like it to be, or maybe your business is suffering a little, or your physical body isn't quite where you want it to be. And you notice that, and then you go, oh, I'm not where I want to be. What do you recommend in those situations?
Yeah. So I'll give you something kind of a mindset thing, and then maybe like a really tactical, like really, here's what we could do like in the moment and, in our day. But, often I think we just got to take a step back and ask ourselves, like, what is truly most important? I can usually look at someone's calendar and I can tell you what is most important, even though it's totally unaligned with what you say is most important, right?
Right.
And so we might say, oh, it's my health. Of course, I got to take care of my health. Well, I can't take care of myself. I can't take care of anyone else. Or it's my kids, but I barely seen them. Or it's my partner, but we don't ever have a date night. Or it's my new business development, but I'm really just stuck in my email and it's getting new clients, but it's prospecting, but it's something else. And so, it's really just taking a few minutes and just getting back in check and be like, what is it that I'm doing this all for? Like what I can say it's there's talk, but what is really important to me? So if you start there, and this isn't like I'm saying go take a day off to figure this out. We pretty much all know this intuitively, right? Like, I mean, we could list this out in 2 minutes, but I think there is something about that exercise of actually like sitting, focusing, writing that out. Because when you see it down on paper, now tactically you can look at your calendar and say, okay, is this really a reflection? Because this is the life I say I want. And then I look at all the things that are going on. I think about my day and it's just not congruent, So I think it's a good place to start, to step back for a minute. Like, what is it that's really important? And let's start with those goals.
Yeah, I agree. I ran into this just yesterday. I can tell you, this is a silly example, but I think our audience can relate to it. It's not real estate related, but in a way, I guess it is. But anyway, we had a torrential downpour for about 5 minutes yesterday here in Chicago, and it was like a crazy downpour. And one of those really cool summer storms that just lasts a few minutes. And we have white furniture out on our a balcony, which you would want to cover when there's a downpour. And my girlfriend does not share that same belief with me. Not that she wants it to get rained on, but my thought is like, whenever we're not using it, we're just going to cover it. And her thought is, no, we're not going to do that. We're gonna try to remember when it's going to rain to cover it. But she's like, I'm just not going to cover it each time I use it. This doesn't make sense to her. And so I was like, but it makes sense to me, but it doesn't make sense to her. So now we're at a loggerhead here. We're at we have conflicting beliefs, and my belief isn't really any more right than hers. She's allowed to have her own belief, and I was like, God, I really feel strongly about this. And then I started to think about, okay, I really want this. She really isn't going to do it, or she's going to be resentful if I like try to force her to like abide by this rule, which of course is not a good idea either. But I started to, like you were saying, I had to reflect and think, what's most important here? Is it more important that I save this furniture? And by the way, we're not talking about a $10,000 couch that like, oh my God, like we're talking about a moderately priced couch that is probably going to get tossed in 3 or 4 years anyway. And I started to think about, maybe I just don't get my way this time, but maybe that's okay, because my longer term goal is that I want a really good relationship with this woman. Yeah. And I'm sort of painting her to be this like person who doesn't care about our stuff.
Not
and
at
doesn't
all.
Want to take She totally wants to take care of our stuff. We just have a different belief about it. And we did buy all weather furniture. So in theory, we should sort of be able to keep it outside. So she's not like totally crazy. We just have a different belief. And by me taking those couple of minutes to think what's most important here, it calmed me down. And it got me to realize, oh my God, my girlfriend's way more important than this stupid couch. I'm not going to let it get ruined, but I'm not going to come at her going, we have this new rule. We got to cover blah, 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 which by the way, she's going to go, yeah, I'm not going to do that. So I just wanted to use that as an example, because I think if I hadn't have taken that time, I would have come in guns blazing going, it rained on our couch today. You're not going to believe, oh my God, it's all, and that's where my mind was and my emotions were. And then I calmed down and I went, oh, this is like kind of silly. Who cares?
I love that. I love that you put a personal example, because it's true. Like this is every decision basically we're making, right? It comes down to that. You're like, is this really worth the battle? Is this the most important? Do I say it's the most important, but then I'm not really doing what's most important? I think that's really where that incongruency is. And it's good. It's good. Let's just let's put ourselves in check, because no one else is going to do it. Right. It's up to us at the end of the day to put ourselves in check. So it's a good practice. I think kind of like on those days you're like, I'm just running. What's important? Just ask yourself what's important.
So the first thing to do, I think, like you were saying, is when things get off balance, which is most of the time we're a little bit off balance, is noticing what's off balance. Like where is my life not ideally working perfectly in the way that I want it to? And then starting to say, okay, well, hey, I want to lose, a few pounds, or I want to get some muscle, or I want to have more energy, or maybe those are physical body stuff, or I want my business to grow a certain percentage, or I want to have more clients, or I want to impact more people. First is identifying what those goals are in relation to values, as you were saying, like what's really important to me, like why do I want my business to grow 10%? Oh, well, then that will allow me to maybe take more vacations with my family, or donate more to charity, or just build more wealth so I can retire early, or whatever it might be. So once you start to identify your values, then sort of where do we go from there?
So then here's what I feel. If it does not work on paper, it's not going to work in real life. Okay. So if we can't figure out a way, a time, a place to actually work on or put time and energy and effort towards those goals, if we can't even see it, it's probably not going to happen. Right. And so I would say, again, to get tactical and actually start looking at your calendar, look at your week, look at your day and say, am I making the time? Am I making the space? Am I planning that for those goals that I've identified, right? Maybe it's my health, maybe it's meal planning, maybe it's prospecting, whatever it might be. Do I carve out the time for it? And what we'll find is often is, hey, you might not have any time. You'll be like, there's absolutely no way. Well, then there's some decisions to be made. Do we scale back on something else? Are those really your priorities? Maybe those aren't your priorities. Like there are changes, but again, it's only with that sort of introspection and that just going through that simple exercise of, deciding, here are my goals. Am I making the time and space for it? But what else is really great about this, when you start looking at your day like that, you start realizing, well, then maybe there are other things that aren't priorities that I'm giving effort to, that maybe I can take away. Maybe there's some opportunity here for me to delegate something. Maybe I don't have to do everything in the house or at work, or, I can outsource something. Maybe some of this stuff is just on my to-do list and I feel guilty about it. So I put it on my calendar every day and now it's been a month and never happens. Like maybe it's just time to delete it altogether. Right. And so there's a lot of things that happen when you just kind of just sit with that for a minute and think through, is this important to me? And I think again, as go-getters and top producers, there is this sense that in order to be successful, we have to do more. Just do, right? You're in the chaos, like everything's coming, the emails are coming, the phone calls. And you're like, if I just put my head down, I do more, it'll feel better. I'll feel better. But I would challenge everyone to think, if you really want to be successful, do more planning, plan more and do less. And that's kind of what I'm saying, like, look at that calendar and say, okay, so if there really is a priority for me to prospect or to work out, like I'm actually going to take it from list to my brain to on the schedule, like put it in there. There's this massive gap between what we believe we can get done. Doesn't matter how smart you are. Doesn't matter how many letters you got after your name. There's a gap. This is what I think I can get done. And this is what I can actually get done. And so for some reason, until we see it on I'll say calendar, but on your schedule, until you can actually map it out, you can't. I don't know why. We always will overestimate it. We'll always overestimate how much time we have. And then when you see it, you're like, oh, wait a second. Between my 4 showings today and this appointment, there's no way I could do these. Like, what was I thinking?
And mom duty and wife duty and, whatever, self-care duty. And
Totally. You feel like a failure often because it's just simply one thing. It's not because you're not smart, not because you don't have the skills, is because you don't complete what you set out to do. That's the only reason, right? So you have your list of 10 things in your to-do list. In your mind, again, this seems totally doable. I'll just make I can totally do these 10 things today. And you get through 4, and they're 4 really good things, but all you're thinking about at the end of the day is the 6 you didn't.
Yeah, right? You feel like a loser.
You feel like a loser. So you only feel like a failure. But what if your list only had 4 to begin with, right? And you map them out in your calendar, you got your 4 done, or even if you got 3 out of the 4, how would you end up feeling? Like a total success at the end of the day, right? You feel so much better. And that's how you stay motivated for the next day. That's what's going to get you inspired to, do the hard stuff in the morning that you don't feel like doing. And so it really is just this like self-defeating thing that we do, that just writing these lists and not really like thinking through and planning, when will I get it done?
I have a theory about why we are a little bit that way, where we expect ourselves to be perfect. And it's just a theory and it's not backed by any sort of evidence or science, but I suspect it has to do, at least here in America. I'm not sure about other countries. I think there was a whole generation, and I think parents are a little smarter today, but a generation or 2 ago, I think it was a lot about, you're special. You can do anything. You can do everything. The whole world is available to you. And I think what that did is you're special, you're unique. And yes, all of that is true, but you can't do everything. You can't be everywhere at once, and you aren't going to be great at everything. And so I think parents are a little bit more savvy now to realize if I put that expectation on my child, it might actually create a lot of anxiety and stress around needing to be perfect. And so I think there's a culture of like, moms are the perfect example. It's like moms are expected to be perfect in every possible way. And it's just like totally unfair and not going to happen. And I know it can lead to a lot of in particular women who are business owners or just, in the working world, who are also trying to be wonderful moms and wives and community members. And it just it's too much. We're asking too much of people. Or people are asking too much of themselves,
Yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right. I used to think the more I do, the better I get to feel about myself. That was the rule I had in my head. What a silly rule, because I never was doing enough. There was always more to do, and therefore I always felt shitty about myself, quite honestly.
It's not the quantity, it's the quality. Better to do 3 awesome kick-ass things that make you feel really successful and rewarded than 10, whatever. I'm just doing it to check things off my list to get my dopamine hit, but it doesn't make me feel good. In fact, I'll tell you one thing. So one thing I share all the time, podcasts, like clients, and I start every day. If you start every day with this simple question, this is going to be your guidepost for the day to focus on those big goals, the things that really matter to you. Just start your morning with this question. Okay. So what 5 things will make me feel most successful when my head hits the pillow tonight? That's it. What 5 things will make me feel most successful when my head hits the pillow tonight? So there's a few things. I can break that down a bit. When I say 5, I typically personally would recommend 3 for your business and 2 personal. Okay. So, and if 5 feels big, I mean, a personal one could be, I want to turn off the lights by 10:30 tonight. Okay. This doesn't have to be like, I'm going to go, go train for the marathon. This is just like a simple personal thing. We're like, but if I did that today, my next day would be great. I'd go to bed. I wouldn't be up watching TV till 1 a.m. All the things. I would feel so good if I did that one thing. Right. And business wise, maybe it's, I want to create that customer, that CRM tool or that system, or I want to, whatever, create that relationship or go to that networking group. And it's just 3, but it could be as simple as I just that email or that phone call that I have been procrastinating for forever. I just want to make that, and it's going to take me 5 minutes. I don't know why I'm procrastinating it, but I'm going to get that out of my way, right? And so they're very simple. You're actually putting them on your calendar. We talked about, and you feel great at the end of the day. But here's the tricky thing about it is that you can fall into what feels good to me right now versus the end of the day, which is why I said before my head hits the pillow. Yeah. Because what you can sometimes focus on is say, what would feel really good right now? If I didn't make that phone call and instead I did by email or I jumped on social media. I mean, if I think about what's going to make me feel really
that
good,
feels much better right now.
That feels really good. But it's not the thing when you go to bed. You're not like, damn it. Gosh,
now I have to do it tomorrow.
Yes. I wish I spent more time on social media today. We don't. So you're really thinking through. Yeah. You're thinking through in the morning when I go to bed tonight, what are those 5, as tiny as they may be, as insignificant as they might are, but they make you feel the best. And just tap into your intuition. Again, we all know what makes us feel good. It's the stuff we procrastinate. It's the stuff that's hard, right? We don't want to go work out, but if I just did a 20-minute walk, it'd be great. And so those are the things. And I guarantee, there's no doubt in my mind, if you asked yourself that question and followed it, your entire life is going to change. You're just going to feel so energized every day. So vibrant,
Yeah, because, and I think part of it's, we're like you were saying earlier, we're so used to beating ourselves up for the things we don't do, right? The things that we can't get to, the things that we think we're expected to do that we just aren't able to because there's only 24 hours in the day. So let's ask that question again. So what could you give it? And then the 5 things. So I want our audience really to because this is a brilliant idea. And I'm going to start doing it myself.
Yeah. What 5 things would make me feel most successful or most rewarded when my head hits the pillow tonight? So you might wake up with that on your alarm, like something on your phone. You might have a sticky note on your bathroom, mirror. You might put it on your fridge, like something just to remind you, think that through. but do take that next step and actually think, okay, if these are them, when will I do it? Get that on the calendar, get it calendared, because if it's not on the calendar, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Yeah. I was just having this conversation about motivation versus discipline with a friend of mine from grade school this morning, who we were talking about. She and I have been friends forever, and we were chatting about motivation. And I said, I'm 46 now, and I said, motivation has not really got me very far in life. I've found that maybe it's just me. My motivation level to do hard things pretty low. It's actually pretty low. And I'm 46, and my motivation probably isn't going to magically just like shoot up the charts tomorrow, where I'm going to, do some amazing things. Like, I have found, for me, discipline seems to really be what gets me to get things done. And so what you were saying is, look, discipline of like asking that question at the beginning of the day. That's a discipline of thinking, okay, what's really important to me today when I go to bed? How do I want to feel? I want to feel like I did some good work. Okay, well, what would I need to do to feel that good work? And then you start to evaluate, like, oh, okay, well, one of my things is I want my kids to go like, hey, mom was really present for me for, some time today, or my clients go, wow, you really helped me out. And then you realize, oh, that's what I'm really after. I'm really after, what I get from accomplishing certain things. And I think that is such a valuable resource. So you've actually just given me a lot to think about as a great way to start my day. Cause I have, I'm like all of us, we just have a lot going on, and it's so easy to get caught up, like you were saying, in the dopamine hits. It's like urgency, things come in at me, the emails are flying in, it's fun to respond, it feels productive. But is it really is that really what I should be doing in that exact moment? The answer is, I don't know. I have to think about it. I have to reflect and determine. And the thing about scheduling, I could not agree with you more. If for me, at least, if I don't put it on the calendar, it does not get done. So I would like to talk about a to-do list, because this is where I have a lot of problems.
Okay.
So, and I'm sure a lot of us do. So I even have a system I use, Todoist, which is what I've been using forever, which I love. It's great. And I tend to push things from day to day to day. It's like I have get my emissions tested, my emissions car test, which is really not that important, but it's been on there for like a month or two, and I'm like, oh, one of these days I just got to go do it. But how do you recommend sort of organizing your to-do list so that you can have an effective day?
Yeah. So, I'd say I typically have about two very different to-do lists. One is, I call a master list, which is like everything going on. Actually, I'll say three lists, everything going on. So I might have my master list for work, and I personally like to separate it. I do a work one and a personal one. Not everybody wants to do that, but I just have enough going on each that I just need two separate ones. So that is my place. And here's what's called a master list. It's the one place, not the 800 sticky notes, not the backs of envelopes, not all the notebooks, not all the, little pads all over. It's the one place that I'm getting down all my thoughts and ideas and to-dos. Gosh, the sun just came out. I may have to put that down in a minute. Tell me if it gets too bad. And that's one place. So it can be, by the way.
So what is your one place? Where do you
use Evernote,
Gotcha.
Which is similar to OneNote. I've recently moved to Notion, but I'd say Evernote for me is a list making tool. It's one of the easiest, Evernote and OneNote. Okay. So
what for our audience, just to pause for a quick second, for our audience, Evernote is a note-taking tool that is free. You probably wouldn't ever need to pay for it. Maybe you would, but most people don't. And it's a great place just to capture thoughts. So we know that, we have tens of thousands of thoughts per day, but so thoughts come and go, and when they come, there's a good chance you'll forget about it in about 15 seconds. So it's a good thing to have, is a way to easily capture the to-do or the note, and you can do it with your device. I use Siri, which is I'm an Apple user, and I've connected my Todoist with I'm just trying not to activate the Siri by saying her name, but I do that. And I just literally say, hey, Siri, and then I say, add this to my to-do list. So that's my master capture system. You use Evernote, but the point is have one place. Yes.
One. And what I do love is just some app. Yeah. I don't overthink the app. If you're listening, it doesn't
matter what it is. Just
honestly,
choose one.
it doesn't matter. We're making a list. It doesn't matter.
Piece of paper and a pen, that works too.
Hey, but what I will say, I do like it on the phone. And I used to be a paper person, so I know how hard it is to move, but because our phones are connected to us 24/7, that notepad isn't. And that's why we end up with so much paper, because nothing's with us 24/7. That's why you have all the different notebooks and different people. Your phone is basically, So I do like that. And I do the same thing. I connect to my Evernote with my audio. So whatever, you can type it in every time you get a thought. But here's the thing that I've told myself, and I'm typically a very positive person, but in this case, it's something that I've now embedded in my head, that every time I think, I'll remember that later. Oh, you should read this book. Oh, you got to follow up with this person. Oh, you should just download that app. I saw the best movie. Oh, I'll remember that. Now I just tell myself, I will not remember that later.
I will.
I will not remember that later. I just go negative there. Yeah.
Assume you have the world's worst memory because, well, I actually do have the world's worst memory, or one of the world's worst memories. I would love to be tested. They'd be like, DJ, you're in early stage dementia, I'm sure. But yeah. So I just go, I'm such a moron. I'm going to forget everything. Yeah. So I have to capture it or it's gone. Yeah,
it's gone, right? It is fleeting. And so I just say, even if it's rote, even if I've heard it 100 times, I will not remember that later. And I just get on my phone. And by the way, it's not rude. That's the other thing I hear from people. Really? You just say, oh, hold on a second. I just want to write that down before I forget. That's not rude. People are going to appreciate that you're actually taking the time to take down their thought. So do that. So I have that. And I have one, like I said, one for business, one for personal. And I'm just basically writing down everything, so let's say for business, here's all these follow-ups I've got to do with my clients. Here's some follow-up with prospecting. Here's stuff I got to do with my financials here, and I'm just writing things down personally as well, kids, sports, this and that. Okay. So you're getting things down. But here's the problem. So typically when you're putting things on your list, they're actually not to-dos. They're actually not tasks. They are most often projects. Okay. So for example, I might just write before I would change the way I do it. Before I'd write update website. Okay, great. Do financials, menu, plan the meals or something, or grocery shop. Okay, whatever. Right. These are all, they seem perfectly normal. Those are all to-dos. But when I think about it, I'm like, why haven't I not done my website in 3 months? Why do I keep putting this off? Why does it always go on every week? I put on my thing and never comes off. Is because that is a giant project. It's not just update my website. I've got to write the copy and get the new imagery and get the testimonials from my clients. And there's 40 different steps for me to do.
Yeah. So, that might be updating the website might be a 10-hour event. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And even something much smaller, let's say you have to, get some information to somebody they asked for. Now it's been a week and you just keep putting it off, because even getting that information is going to require you to make a phone call, request that thing, research it, get the right options, put together a little proposal and send it over to them. Right. I mean, it's like a project. So I think anything with more than one step to me is a project. If it had 2 steps, it's a project, right? It is more than one thing. And so where I would say most of us go wrong is go back now. Now they've heard this, go back to your to-do list and look at each task and say, does this have more than one step? And if it does, break it down. So now instead of update website, that will be my project update website. And then below that on Evernote, but on really most of these, you can do check boxes or whatever you want to do. I'll have my check boxes. I'm like, okay, here's the 14 different steps I need to do in order to update that project. So that's the first step, is 2 steps. First, you brain dump everything going on in your life. Then you go back and say, is this really a to-do or is this a project? And then I break it down project by project by project. It is an exercise. I'm not going to lie. It takes some time. It's an investment of time. But when you're done, you have such a more comprehensive list of things you have to get done. And it's amazing how much clarity you have after that. You're like, now, I see why I have been procrastinating this for months or weeks or whatever, because there's so much. And instead of me saying, I'm going to update my website, how about today, all I'm going to do is, get the image for the what about me page. And that's it, right? I'm just going to actually check off one thing off my to-do list. Like it's a real to-do, like it's one task instead of an entire project. So that's one of the big things. Yeah.
I love this because I am behind on building a website. So I can really relate to this.
Yeah.
I need to rebuild our recruiting website for realtors. And it's time. And I just keep saying I need to rebuild the website. That is, by the way, about a 40-hour project for me.
Yeah. Yes.
So when I think about it, we can all relate. Everyone listening, think about a project that you want to complete that you just put in one sentence. Like, I want to build a new website, or I want to get more clients, or I want whatever it might be. And you realize it creates a lot of anxiety and a lot of overwhelm and a lot of and what Mridu really just talked about was, okay, we're going to spend a few minutes. It's a little bit of work, and we're going to actually list out all of the steps, or at least, a lot of the steps. And then we can just start chipping away when we have, time. We're going to chip away at these things. We're not going to think of it as this big giant elephant that we have to eat with one bite. We're going to piece by piece, define it. And then and what happens when I do this exercise is all of a sudden I relax. I'm like, okay, now I know what I actually need to do. And that is very comforting. My anxiety comes way down, and that's important.
100%. And similarly, think your personal life, right? Where our lives are integrated. If you've been like, I want to clean out the garage, and that's been on there all year. Well, maybe, you break it down. You're like, all I'm going to do is collect all the balls, and put all the balls in a bin. And that's my only step for this weekend or today. And that's it. And then tomorrow I'll get all the brooms together, and that's it, and so it really gives you a tool to start making progress, to stop procrastinating, but also feel really good. Like, what if that putting the brooms or the balls is one of your top 5 things for the day? Now you feel really great because you started doing that thing. And then I always say, we were earlier talking about motivation and discipline. For me, I think how you get motivated is action. Like, action incites motivation. You can't wait around for motivation to take action because it ain't coming. Like, I don't know about you.
Isn't that a bummer
for me? Yeah.
That's the first thing. If there is a God, I'm going to ask when I was like, couldn't you have given me more motivation? That's going to be my first question. And he's going to go, no. Because it's not really the key is discipline. I at least the way I see it. I'm curious to get your thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I think, you take that first action. So I'll just stick with the garage because I don't know why I'm on the garage right now, but whatever. Okay. So, we're like, I'm just going to get all the balls together in a bin. That is going to get you motivated. You might just be like, well, since I'm doing that, I'll just get all the paints and put them in on the side. Right. That is what's going to get you motivated, is take the one small action, the little tiny baby step. If you can't get your butt to the gym every day, don't make that your goal. My action is, I just want to put on my sneakers. There's a good chance. So this is something I do. I'm getting way too personal probably here, but I do think I hear about exercise as a major problem for a lot of, adults and
everybody.
We want to do it. Everybody. Right.
Yeah.
So I put my, should I even be saying this? I sleep in a t-shirt. So I put my yoga pants by my bedside, by my bed every day. Like, my yoga pants are there. And so I just wake up in the morning and I put them on. Like, I just put them on. It's the first thing that I do. And then I go to the bathroom, I come back, I brush my teeth, and I put on like my top, and basically my workout outfit is like right there. So even if I don't go to the gym, even if I don't go for the walk, I know when I have those clothes on, I'm just more active in the morning. I'm like running around. I'm like grabbing the dishes. I'm like running outside. I'm going to get the garden stuff. I literally become a more active person, even if I didn't actually get to the workout. Right. But if I just stay in pajamas all morning, like more on a Saturday, I can also tell you, I'm just slower. I'm sluggish. It's fine. I'm not beating myself up. I'm just telling you the difference of taking a small action, how it can impact your motivation, right? How it can impact your energy. And so that's why I do it. Not because I can always go work out, but I know I'm going to have more energy if I'm in the right clothes, So my whole point is, all I'm focused on is the first action. And then I will hopefully get more motivated. So you can do this with anything you're procrastinating. You're like, when you break it down like that, especially, you're like, I just have to take the first small little action, and then, be whatever comes, but I just got to take an action.
In the 12-step world, there's a saying that says, what's the next right thing? So which I love. So you don't have to build the whole website. You don't have to, get the 6-pack abs immediately. Right. You just have to get the clothes on. Maybe that's the next right step. And then, okay, now I got the clothes on. What's the next thing? Well, now I need to get to the car, and then I'm going to drive to the gym.
Yeah.
And then, or whatever you're able to do. And it sounds silly too. I want to talk about this with respect to physical exercise, because I think it's something most of us can relate to. Is we hear about these stories about people who run marathons, but they started like just walking to the mailbox. Mm-hmm. And you're like, really? Do you just walk to the mailbox? Right. And then that was enough. And the next day you walked a little further. Right. And then eventually, now, and then, 6 months later, you're running a marathon. And it's like, no, people actually do that. And that it's almost something that I think most of us go, yeah, I'm not going to be the guy that just walks to the mailbox, but like, that's a great first step. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think if you can just go, I don't have to eat the whole elephant today. I just have to do the first action and then schedule the next action. You're going to have a great life. If you can just keep moving forward with these small steps. Life is do you think life is mostly big steps or small steps?
No, I agree. Small steps. It's it's a series of small, consistent steps. It's like, I guess, discipline, what you're saying. It's just that consistency of small things always add up to big changes, big impact. Yeah.
Let's talk about time, because time is the one commodity that, boy, it's probably the most precious commodity that exists, because we have a finite amount of it. And we're all kind of bound by the same rules of time. So it's, in some ways, it's maybe the thing that's, the great equalizer is time. Yeah. And of course, some of us get more time on this planet than others. And I'm not referencing that kind of time. I just mean in a 24-hour period, we can only accomplish so much. So I'm curious on how you start to think about, how do you manage all these demands on your time?
That's so good. So one thing I think about is like multiplying time. Like, how can I multiply, which often multiplying time is multiplying me. Like, if there's how do I create another me? Because I feel I need to do all these things, right? I want to do it. That's why the list is so long. So that has always stuck with me, that like, how do I duplicate, whatever, multiply me, And so that is sometimes it's like through automation, right? We have all these great technology tools. So something like sending out emails in bulk, or sending, there's just so many ways that we can use automation and technology. Sometimes it's delegating, we can, and delegating is interesting. I think that I'm going to tie this back to when you have your project, when you actually have your to-do list and it's all broken down. Another huge benefit of that is when you can start visually seeing all the pieces, you can start delegating little pieces of it, right? I think sometimes when we think of delegating, you're like, I can't have somebody do my website, right? Because I'm the only one who knows it. Well, no one's asking you to delegate the entire project, but you probably could ask an assistant or your kid or your babysitter or someone to go search online for some images of, some houses of some stock photography, like there are things, but in your head, you're like, oh, I got to do my website. But when you all break it down, now you're like, oh wait, it's a kind of multiplying me. It's, I can get someone else to do it. So there's just obvious like delegation, outsourcing. There's I think those are the main ways. I would say automating, delegating, outsourcing. Oh, and then also being more efficient, but that has sometimes to do with processizing and systemizing. So that's a big thing. It's how do you just be more efficient with that time? So you're not necessarily duplicating yourself, but I believe you're multiplying your time in that way. So an example might be if someone wants to make an appointment with you, they might get like how I signed up here, for us to speak. It was so odd. It was so systemized. It was amazing. I could get on your calendar. I could fill out some forms. I could, and it kind of took you out of that process, and someone, and it's just a way more efficient than maybe, sending 5 emails back and forth and having phone calls to get to the same result. So those are all the different ways, but that's sort of like the mindset I have of just how can I multiply or duplicate like what I'm doing some other way.
And I think when going back to your earlier point of identifying the projects and all the steps, or at least the big steps or the small steps, and looking at it and then realizing, so the initial thought is, oh, I need to build my website, or I need to, overhaul my business, or whatever it might be. And then you're like, oh my gosh, that's just too much. It's overwhelming. I don't know what to do. And then you list all these steps, and then you go, just using the website example, it's like, oh, I got to do everything. And then you look at each step, and you were saying, but you don't have to do everything. There are parts of it that you can delegate, or you can get a virtual assistant to help with, or ask friends and family or coworkers, or, you can actually ask for help. And people can do it. Like, what if somebody could even do half of it for you?
Yes.
Like, wouldn't that be amazing? And thank God we live in a time where we have the ability to put these offers out there in the world, and we're all interconnected. So people from all over the globe can say, I can do that for you, and I can do it for a reasonable price.
Right.
And that to me is, yes, is it going to be the level of quality that your standard? Maybe not. But what if they got you halfway there, or 70% there, and then you just come in and cleaned up the rest? Boy, that would save me a lot of time for sure.
For sure. And sometimes, people will do it even better than we did. Like, people have gifts, and here's the thing, they're focusing 100% on that task, which is why often they could do it better than you can. Why my nanny was a better mom in some ways than I was when I was home with my kids, because I was also trying to work and do the dishes and do the laundry and do the bills, and, and she is just there playing with the kids, right? Like, that's like her only focus. And so she was doing a really good job. And so I think, we underestimate what focused support, the results that they can actually give us. It's often better than we could do it ourselves.
Yeah. It's that like 1 + 1 = 3 thing, where it's like, it's not just, oh, I'm going to hire somebody because I don't want to do it. It's, I'm going to hire somebody who specializes in this. And that then frees up some time where I can, if nothing else, just relax, or maybe I can spend that time focused in a different direction and to achieve something else. Because I want to talk about how to make, and I know this is a big hot button for you, is how do you make space for the most important things in your life, the priorities? How do you prioritize? So now we've got our to-do list, we've got our projects, we know, okay, here are all the steps of the things I should do, but how do I prioritize this? How do I make space to get these things actually done?
Yeah. So one thing I say is, willpower is short-lived. We only have so much. And typically for most of us, some people are truly night owls, and their best work is at 10 o'clock at night. But for most of us, our energy is dissipating over the day. Like, we're probably most awake and active in the morning, and by the afternoon, we're like, I'm going to eat crap. And then by the evening, I'm just tired. Right. So that's happened. So I'd say one thing is, this isn't new, but it's a good reminder that the thing that's really hard, the thing that you keep procrastinating, the thing, if I leave this to the end of the day, it's most likely not going to happen. Do that one first. Just knock it out, right? Like, just do that one first, because it does a few things. One, you're going to feel really great. You're going to get the hardest thing done. Everything after that is easier, but it gives you a win. Like, you're starting your day with like a success, right? It's like a big pat on the back, and it's like that inspiration. If you start with sort of losses, if you start with this idea that I'm failing, in the morning, it's only going to set up your day, right? That it's like our energy only gets less and less over the day. So one thing I'd say is, commit to that, make it small enough, make it doable enough, commit to an action, not the whole project, right? All the things we've been talking about, but do it first, because that's what's going to build your momentum. So that's one thing.
I think that's such a good tip. I wanted to also just really quickly throw in a suggestion, because I know a lot of us, when we wake up, I want to get your thoughts on this. I know a lot of us, we wake up, the first thing we do is we grab our phones.
Yes.
I try not to do that, but it doesn't make me better than anyone. I just try not to, because, whatever, I have my own routine. But a lot of us reach for our phones. And a lot of us reach for social media.
Yeah.
That's going to be part of our routine. And I suspect that for most of us, or for many of us, as we're waking up, starting our day, and we're looking at people's Instagram and Facebook, or maybe TikTok, wherever you might be scrolling, and we're seeing everyone else's successes. I actually think that could be a demotivator for a lot of people, because we see people at their best, or we see what they're willing to share. And most people share, their best selves on social media. They're not sharing the fight they had last night with their spouse. They're sharing the dinner they had where everyone's smiling and happy and the kids are, everyone's perfect, and all of that. And we can tap a button and make the picture look perfect, even if it isn't actually perfect. I wonder if that demotivates people, because I know for me, if I looked at that every day, I'd be like, well, I'm not that happy. I'm not that, I didn't have that night last night. My night was more rough. So I would encourage everyone to just get a sense of like, how do you feel after, if you wake up and you start scrolling through social media, if it's inspiring and it gives you energy and you're like, this is what I need to battle the day, like, awesome. But I think for a lot of us, it might actually make us feel less than.
I am 100% with you. When we do like a routine with my clients, that's the word I use is energize. What is going to make you feel energized? What's going to make you feel excited? What's going to motivate you? What's going to make you feel vibrant for the day? And I 100% agree, even though sometimes people think social media, because I love to see my friends, I love to see connecting with them. I completely agree that it's, you're seeing, oh, she sold another $2 million house. Oh my God, they went on the
Right.
perfect, right. She went on a perfect vacation. She looks so skinny and her husband is so nice to her. Blah, 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 just like, it is a comparison game. I don't care what, unless you're just abnormal. You're comparing. It does not make you feel great. There are other ways. And like, so what is energizing to you? For some people, it is going for a walk. For someone, it's, I just want to sit and have coffee by myself. I would love to write, gratitude is a big thing for a reason, right? I just want to write something I'm grateful for so that I can make it through this day. I want to go stare at my child's crib for a minute. I don't know. Like, there are things that make you really energized. And so to me, I don't believe like you have to be up at 5 a.m. I don't think you need an hour of all this stuff in the morning. I just want everyone to have some big hits, some few little things in the morning, some little spurts that make you feel really energized. And I couldn't agree with you more. I don't think social media or the news, quite frankly, is it. I don't think either one of those serves us well. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a place. There's a place for it in our life,
For
but
sure.
I don't, not first thing in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah. I have one friend I know that he just loves seeing everybody's social media posts, because he's like one of those rare people that is just absolutely does not compare himself to other people. So he's like the one person I know that does it, but for the rest of us, we're all like, oh yeah. So I think you're right. So really the point we're making is what feeds us and what debilitates us, and knowing what those things are requires attention. We have to, right? We have to pay attention to how we feel after we do certain things. And then that'll help us go, oh, I'll give you a perfect example. This is really funny. So I think we can all relate to this. So I play video games at night sometimes, and I play really stressful games because I don't know, I like stressful games, and like, not like violent games really, but just like really hard games. And so I'm like, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a realtor, and he was saying, I go, what? He goes, oh, I play games too. What games do you play? And we were talking about different games, and he goes, I play golf games. And I go, golf game? I've never really played a golf game before. Okay. I go, that sounds really relaxing. He goes, yeah. He goes, what kind of games do you play? And I go, oh, I play these really stressful, incredibly difficult games. And he goes, how does that make you feel? And I go, and my girlfriend was there, and she goes, because I was going to say, oh, I love it. And she goes, DJ is stressed out all the time when he plays video games, because she can see it, she can witness it. And I go, oh, wait a minute. I actually, not that there's not a place to play stressful game, like that's fine. But she goes, DJ is stressed out all the time when he plays video games. And the other realtor looked at me, who's a lot wiser than I am. And he goes, why do you do that to yourself? Why do you play stress? Why don't you do something that actually relaxes you? And I was like, oh, like I never thought of it. But it's about paying attention, right? It's about noticing how do we feel after something? And does this, get us to take action, or does it get us to curl up in a ball in the corner? And both of those things are valid, but just noticing what does social media do to us? What does the news? What does talking to my mom, or whatever, those kind of things. And the other thing you said that's really important is tackling the most important thing first. the hardest thing
The
first.
hardest thing. Yeah.
Yeah, the hardest thing, maybe not the most important thing, but the thing that you're sort of dreading.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to get the energy to tackle it, I suspect you have to be in the right mindset. And so I think what you're talking about is setting yourself up so that you have the energy
Yes.
to actually tackle that big thing.
100%. Yeah. I mean, start energetic, start with a good vibe, start positive, so you're like, I'm just going to knock this thing out, I'm going to knock this sucker out. And the rest of it's going to be gravy after this. Right. If you're going to start from a place where you have comparisonitis and you're feeling low and you're just like, you're already with that like dread kind of thing. Yeah. What energy are you going to have to tackle that hard thing? It's going to be even harder, and then chances are you won't do it later. And then it'll go back on the list. You feel like a failure. And that's like this whole cycle of self-sabotage happens. For me, it is always 100% something to do with my health, like exercise. It kills me. Like I'm 50 years old. I do it all the time. I'm never going to love it. I'm never going to look forward to it. It's just not going to happen. Right. I don't like it. But if I don't do it, and by the way, I mean like a 20-minute walk. I'm not running a marathon, but I want to do something that gets me active because I know that gives me the best energy. I know it gives me the best energy. I put on a great podcast. I put on great music. I go for a walk. I'm in nature. It gives me the best energy. My best ideas come to me on that walk. Everything comes to me during that walk. And so I know it's the hardest thing for me to do personally, not professionally, personally. But I know it's the best thing for me. It gives me the best energy. So I've just come to terms with, I'm not going to like it. I just got to do the first action. I just got to get my clothes on and then I can walk out the door and go,
Yeah, I think so much of life is about accepting your preferences, right? Like understanding I don't like going to the gym. I hate it.
Yeah.
But I still do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I for a long time in my life, I thought you had to like everything that you did.
Yep.
And I thought I was a failure because I didn't like it. Because I would look at people comparison thing and I would say, oh, that person built their business way faster than I did, or they built their body way faster than they seem to get to the gym, no problem, or they've saved more money than I have, or earned more money, or whatever. And then I've realized like, okay, well, we all have preferences, and my preference is not to go to the gym. I don't want to work out. I don't want to do leg day, on Wednesday. I don't want to do that. I will, like you were saying, I will probably, I mean, it would be awesome if one day I woke up and it was like, I can't wait to do leg day. I don't know if that day is ever going to come for me. It doesn't really matter because, I probably, if I'm being honest, I probably are just always going to hate working on my legs at the gym because, whatever, I just don't like it. It's painful. It sucks, but it's important. So how do I get myself to do it? Well, for the majority of my life, I didn't, because I thought, oh, I'm supposed to want to do that. I'm supposed to want to. And it's like, no, you just don't want to do it, but you still should do it. Right. So I made peace with the fact that I was okay, that I don't want to do it, and I'm still going to do it. And I held those two things at the same time. Those two thoughts of I don't want to do this and I'm going to do it. Right. And that it removed the pressure, because I think real estate agents have this tremendous pressure to just be perfect, right? Like I'm gonna every part of my business is just gonna be perfect, and I'm gonna love every part of it, and I'm gonna, and it's like, no, you're probably not. There's gonna be parts of your business that you just dread. But if you can get yourself to take action anyway, and honor the fact that, well, I just don't like doing that, but I need to do it. I think that's really the path.
Yeah. And I think what's important there, just if someone takes this and says, oh, then I guess I should be doing that thing I hate doing and doing it anyway, just make sure it gives you the result that you want. Right. Yeah. So you probably still feel you hate legs. I hate Mark. I'm with you. Never going to like it, but I know it makes me feel really good. I know it's good for my body. I know it makes me healthy. The results, I'm getting the results, right? Like that, it's making me better. Don't do something though, just because you're like, well, they said I don't like it, but I feel like I should do it, and it's not serving you. So if you're like, well, I should be on Room Mom because all the other moms are, and then you hate it and it's sucking the life out of you and you're taking away time from your children, and you're, don't do it just because, you think you should and it's hard. you don't do it because it doesn't give you the reward, what you wanted. Like it's not serving you. So just keep that in mind. If anyone listening, it's like, it also has to really serve you,
What you're saying is so important, because we have ideas, we have fantasies of, I'm going to be this type of person. I'm going to, if I had the expectation that I was going to, like, we have about 800 agents here at our firm. If my expectation was, we really, to be successful, we need to have 1,600 agents. Well, I would feel like a giant failure. We've only got 800. But when I started, we had no agents. And so it's like, okay, I know what my goal is. Sure, I'd love to have 1,600 agents, but here I am right now at 800. Here's where we are. And I'm going to still try to happily achieve to get to that number, but I'm not going to feel like a failure because I am where I am. I think that's really one of the biggest challenges, is feeling like a failure where you currently are. Like, that is just a big concrete wall that just stops motivation. It's like,
absolutely.
Don't you think?
Oh yeah. Yeah. If you want to be unproductive, that's the way. Cause now you're just like self-sabotaging. Your thinking
totally.
you're chipping away at your self-confidence, your self-esteem. And it's just a negative, it's a spiraling, like, negative thing going on.
Yeah. So I think what we're really talking about is being intentional. I think mindful, and really trying to get a sense of, we all have preferences, and really thinking about, okay, how does this make me feel? Do I, yes, I know the world says I'm supposed to be a certain physical shape, or a certain financial, have a certain financial well-being, or, spiritual side, or a certain amount of friends or money, or whatever it might be. But what do I really want? What are the steps needed to sort of get there? And how does it make me feel? And what's truly important to me? And I think working through that is, again, that's this idea of happily achieving, this idea of working through in alignment with values. I want to talk about your podcast specifically, because our audience are podcast listeners. So tell us about your show.
Sure. It's called Productivity on Purpose. And it is all about a lot of what we're talking about, like the mindsets, which I love that we've gone there, because I think at the end of the day, it's, we probably haven't talked that much about time management, you and I, but we're talking a lot about focus management and distraction management. And so that's a lot what I just talk about too. It's the tools are always there. I always say, don't worry about the tools. We get so caught up in the right tool and the right list maker and the right project management tool. It doesn't matter. It's really your mindset and your beliefs, and then like the strategies behind it. All the tools are great. We live in a great, there's no shortage of tools. So so I talk a lot about, how do we avoid this procrastination? How do we avoid this self-sabotage? How do we get out of our own perfectionistic ways? Stop people pleasing. Get more energy. This is what's really going to feed to our productivity. This is what's going to make you, feel really great about your day, successful, motivated, inspired. So there's a lot of talk about that. And then I do have guest experts that bring some, their great expertise, whether it's because my podcast is for business owners typically, or, people who are like your audience that are basically like their own business. So we talk a lot about, how to manage your finances, or how to, I had someone say, she was talking about public speaking, like how to really use your voice in a conversations and take control of the conversation. So there's a lot of amazing guests.
And I know that you focus a lot on boundaries too. And I think real estate agents it's been my experience with the thousands of agents that I've known, either here at our own company or just on our show, that boundaries tend to be challenging, because we know that real estate happens at nights and weekends. And, it's not uncommon for an agent to get a text at, midnight from a client. And then the agent has a decision, and it creates anxiety sometimes. Like, do I respond? Do I not respond? How do I set those boundaries? And I know that you go through that, on your show, you talk a lot about that. And I think setting healthy boundaries, which we didn't talk about today, is really, really important. And I think that will help guide our listeners into, understanding what's healthy for you, and everyone's different, but whatever those healthy boundaries are, Mridu can help you set those boundaries, and so that you can determine what's healthy for my business, what's healthy for my personal life. And I just love that. And I think real estate agents, boundaries and real estate agents could it's a huge opportunity there to get better at that. Because real estate agents tend to be people pleasers. They tend to want to go above and beyond because it's a service industry sort of job. And if you don't have effective boundaries, people will set their own boundaries, and they might not be the same boundaries that you set.
I'm so glad. I can't believe we didn't talk. I will do another episode on boundaries.
We're going to do, we will.
Because I have worked with a lot of real estate agents, and I agree. I would say I'm surprised we didn't go there, because that's probably the number one challenge, because you're right. They're, you're accessible, quote unquote, accessible 20 all the time. And, but it really comes back to those goals. Like, what is it that you want in life? What is it that's meaningful to you? Cause that's going to help you set those boundaries. So like, it always starts there. Like, what do I really want?
Well, I think it's a great place to wrap up our first conversation, and I would absolutely love to have you on more often, and we can dive into like specific topics. But obviously, you and I I loved this conversation, so I want to thank you, Mridu, for being on our show. And by the way, I want to give a special shout out to you, because if I remember correctly, and we are already established my memory is very poor. But I believe you reached out to us, and I want to say that this is something that I encourage everybody to do. If you are inspired by someone or something, or you're a fan of someone or something, we're so lucky now. We live in an age where it's pretty easy to get in touch with people who we don't know. And if I remember correctly, Mridu reached out to us and said, "Hey, I do this daily walk every day. I listen to your show from time to time. I'm a real fan. I'm a fan of what you guys do. I would love to be on your show." That is how we found her, or she found us. Here we are now, right? And I'm like, "Oh, we got to have Mridu on more. She's awesome," right? Take that step. If you're inspired by people, and I'm not saying I'm so inspiring, but whatever inspires you, reach out to people like that. Tell them how much they mean to you. Tell them it is always welcomed by especially by people. People love to hear about how they're inspiring others. So I applaud you for having the courage to reach out to us, and we get pitched by publicists about maybe 20 or 30 times a week. Wow. And we say no to most of them because we just don't think it would be a good fit. But when somebody reaches out to us and says, "I'm a fan of your show. Here's how it's impacted my life. Here's how I think I can add value." It was an instant yes for us. And not just because we want adoration. We don't care about that. But we appreciate people who go, "Hey, I can add value to this." And I think I encourage everyone out there, whenever you think you can add value to something or someone, reach out to them and tell them. And you'll be so shocked at what kind of results you get from that. But anyway,
I appreciate that. That's awesome. And by the way, that would have been on my list, I'm sure, for days. I kept pushing it up and pushing it up. And I was like, this will make me feel so good if I finally reach out to him. So I'm so happy to hear that.
Well, you did. And here we are, and we are grateful. And coming up on the end of the episode here, I want everybody to please go to lifeisorganized.com. That's the hub of everything Mridu. She is a life productivity coach, a life coach. She's the real deal. This is a real deal person who knows strategies. She can help you get out of your own way. And she has a podcast. So get subscribed to Productivity on Purpose. And also the last thing is lifeisorganized.com/resources. We're going to put all of these links in the show notes, but she's got a tremendous number of resources. Subscribe to the podcast, check out her website, and hire her to help you get your life organized. Gosh, nobody's life is too organized. At least mine isn't. And I need help. Everybody needs help. And I think, this is the way to go. So Mridu, thank you so much for being on our show. We are so grateful you came on, and I'm jealous that you live in Nashville, because that's one of my favorite places. but and I know you love Chicago too, but we are grateful that you were able to talk to us today. And I hope all of our audience goes on and starts subscribing to your content. And then also on behalf of Mridu and myself, we want to thank our audience for continuing to support our show. Please tell a friend. Think of one other agent that could benefit from hearing this great conversation with Mridu, and send them a link to our maybe our website, keepingitrealpod.com, or have them pull up a podcast app, search for Keeping It Real, and hit the subscribe button. Mridu, thank you so much. And I am going to want to have you on again. So we will set up some additional conversations. So thank you so much.
Thank you. This was a gift, and you're amazing. And thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me.
All right. We'll see everyone next time. Thank you.